Sorry, I just got stuck.
Recording in progress.
Molweni, Minister, Molweni, Chair.
Molweni, Deputy Minister. Molweni, Deputy Minister. Nenjani, Deputy Minister.
Thank you so much for asking.
Thanks, Deputy Minister. Honorable members, good morning again. Mr. Sakaza, can you help us with the roll call, please?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and good morning to the Deputy Minister and all the members and the department at large. Chair, we have today yourself, Honorable Acting Chair. We've got Honorable Gabe, we've got Honorable Konto, Honorable Demir, Honorable Makubele, Honorable Yinana, Honorable Baker. That's the members that I have today, Chair. And from the supporting staff, Chair, we've got myself, Sakasa, we've got Tabini, the committee assistant, Mukwena, the researcher, we've got Ngobo, the content advisor, we've got the communications officer. I haven't received any.
Sorry, Mr. Sakaza.
Yes, sir.
Honorable Inana, can you mute your mic, please? Honorable Inana, please.
Okay, I will do so.
Thank you, Chair. I haven't received any apology except that Mr. Wababa, the parliamentary officer, told me that the DG is not here today. That's all, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Sakaza. Can we then acknowledge again the minister and the deputy minister? And I'm not sure, Marsha, are you the one who is standing in for the DG?
Yes, indeed, Chair. I am standing in for DG.
Okay, can you then introduce your delegation, please?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to the honourable members, Minister, Deputy Minister. In the delegation this morning, I have the two commissioners, Commissioner for Compensation Fund, Mafata, and Commissioner Maruping for the UIF. I also have the CFOs of the two funds, Ms. Fezeka Puzi and Mr. Kota. Then I have a number of chief directors of the two funds in for their specific areas of responsibility. And I have got Mr. Johnny Mudiba, who is the COO for the Compensation Fund. I have also got Mr. Julian Sopen, who is Chief Director in the Compensation Fund. I have Millie Reiters, also a Chief Director in the Compensation Fund. Advocate Mziyawa, who's Chief Director in the UIF. And I have, sorry, the names keep on jumping as people join the meeting. Then I'm sure Ms. Kumbi, the COO for the UIF, will also join. Chairperson, then there's quite a number of administrative support staff also from the department and from ministry who are in the meeting. Thanks, Chair.
And thanks, Marsha. Any observers in the meeting who would want to introduce themselves? No one. We will proceed. I think the protocol as it is standard, we need just to re-emphasize it that no observers are allowed to raise questions or to speak in the meeting. They should just observe the proceedings from wherever they are. Before we proceed, I will invite Honorable Minister to say a few words just before we proceed with the presentations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson of the committee today, the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, the Deputy Minister, our COO and the officials of the department, and of course, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to expand on the apology by the DG. The DG is outside the country in a meeting of ministers of labor in Malawi. That's the reason he's not here. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Let me start with an apology and an explanation, Chairperson, as to why I've not attended the Portfolio Committee meeting recently. There may have been other prior engagements, but you know, there is a timetable problem. Cabinet and cabinet committees are held on Wednesdays. Even today, I have to jump maybe for about 30 minutes. There is a clash. We are just fortunate to have this hardworking deputy minister who is always willing to step in to save the day. By the way, Chairperson, the Bible is very clear on this, the difficulties of serving two masters. But in our case, it's not a case of God or mammon, but a matter of logistics and timetabling. So that would be my plea to the powers that be, that this should be taken into consideration, and my apologies are not seen as running away from the committee. And the cabinet is very hard also on this particular matter, especially on Wednesdays. But today I definitely needed to be at this portfolio committee. When it comes to matters of the UIF and the compensation fund, we all know there are deep systemic problems as well as rather basic problems that can and must be fixed. It's only right, therefore, that the executive authority is here to take accountability alongside the officials. I've said before, we welcome the committee's oversight and scrutiny of the department and its entities, because it keeps us on the straight and narrow. The officials will therefore provide these detailed presentations. I just need to flag the following points in relation to the two funds. First, there are plans to fundamentally review the organizational architecture, the systems and processes of the funds. Of course, this will not happen, and there are no shortcuts. The forensic auditors have been engaged to address the widespread fraud and corruption which occurred in the funds. The benefits in the case of the UIF COVID-19 TERS program are already being felt with the return of nearly $1 billion in irregular and illegal payments. That was due to the very specialized and focused follow the money program, supported also by the work of the AG, the SIU, and the President's Fusion Center. I look forward to the findings of the forensic report on the compensation fund, and I'm guessing that some vested interest will be having sleepless nights. More fundamentally, or maybe more immediately, the audit finding action plans are well underway to address the key focus areas and categories identified by the AG, which contributed in the past to negative or disclaimed audit periods. Of course, a plan is only as good as its implementation strategy and the system of detailed monitoring and evaluation that you put in place. This is in place, and the case of the compensation fund, we've already reported progress to the committee on this. I just want to flag this as an important step forward. The implementation of the system, or of a system of detailed monitoring, as the management gurus like to say, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Maybe I need to take one step back and stress, Chairperson, that the action plans are firmly based on the AG's findings. More than that, at every stage of the planning process, the department and the funds worked closely with the AG, seeking their input and feedback. Indeed, the AG was gracious enough to acknowledge the positive and cooperative response and their office receives from the department. I have some of the problems because these are things that spring to mind in case of the two funds. But let me also flag some of the programs of the funds going forward reflected in the APPs and strat plan. From the side of the UIF, the labor activation have been repurposed to focus on the demand-led skills training with the object of placing workers in the actual jobs. We celebrated one of these programs recently in KZN, training projects aimed at creating jobs in fiber optics, food handling, and mixed farming sectors. So some 20,000 beneficiaries, with the majority now employed. The revitalization of this lab is aligned to the expanded mandate of the department. In case of the compensation fund, one of their main objectives is to strengthen an efficient online system to manage verified claims. The system's challenge is that this brings the fund into conflict with parasitic vested interest, the third-party middlemen and industry that grew up exactly because of the past inefficiencies of the fund. If the fund successfully reforms itself, the reason for existence of the middleman fails away. I mean, it falls away. Perhaps that's why chairperson supporters in parliament are so vocal. By the way, their business model was based on unverified and inflated claims. The forensic audit will help us to identify the scale of the scam. So when the commission tries to stamp out these practices, when it demands accurate and verified documents before paying out claims, I believe it deserves. And it goes without saying that when the fund falls short, he will hold him to account and the executive authority for that matter. By the way, in the private sector, they call it managed healthcare. In the compensation fund, it has been more a feeding frenzy. So again, I implore you, when the commissioner takes on the vested interest, and this can only be done by improving the efficiency of the operation, then it deserves your support. That's all from me, Chairperson and honorable members. Thank you once again for this opportunity. If I jump, I'll jump out for 30 minutes because I have to go to the cabinet. I have an item which I'm presenting on behalf of, I'm acting as Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology. Thank you, but it will be just 30 minutes and then I'll be back. That will only be, for that matter, after 10. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thanks for the incisive and the clear presentations that you have made. You have helped us to have an understanding and anticipation of the presentations that are going to come, consistent with the manner in which we have been working in this committee. You've always never failed to rise to the occasion. Thank you, Minister. That's our vote of confidence. Can we invite the presenter, Ms. Bronkhorst? Can you help us with the presentation, including those on that? Yeah.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I'm not going to introduce or lead an introduction. I think the Minister has done that already for me. Thank you for that. The presentation of the compensation fund is quite substantial, and with your indulgence, I would want us to start with that presentation so that we still have, ample time to discuss that. And also with your indulgence, I'll ask the Commissioner to take us through the presentation so that we make sure that he addresses everything that he wants us to hear, if that is acceptable to the committee, Chair.
No, that's fine. That's fine, Ms. Bronkhorst.
Thanks. Then,
yes.
Commissioner Mafata will take us through the presentation. I think he has got sharing rights to help us with the presentation. Commissioner?
Thank you. Good morning, Honorable Chair, Minister, Deputy Minister, and the honorable members. I will take you through the presentation of the compensation fund. If the chair allows, I've just changed the template of the presentation of the compensation fund. Just trying to share the document. Thank you, Chair. The content of the presentation is the same. The slide numbers is the same. I've just changed. We had initially used the internal change management document as a template for the presentation, but we're just using the departmental template now, Chair. Chair, the slides 3 to 9 is the presentation. It's just basically the background information. It's a background information with regards to the compensation fund, which is information that is known to the committee that we always present when we presenting the when we are presenting the APP and the QPR reports on a quarterly basis. So I will start at slide 10, Chair, which talks to the strategic plan of the compensation fund. Slide 10. So the compensation fund strategic plan supports 3 priorities of government. Priority 1, which is the capable, ethical, and developmental state. Priority 2, which is economic transformation and job creation. And priority 4, which is consolidating the social wage through reliable and basic services. So the strategic plan that we have and the APPs that we're implementing on an annual basis to achieve the objectives of the strategic plan are aimed at contributing to these priorities as the minister has contracted with the president on. So when we look at these priorities of the compensation fund, the first priority is improving systems of internal control and maintaining financial soundness. And that supports the first MTSF priority of capable and ethical developmental state. And the second CF priority there is developing the capacity of the fund to deliver according to its mandate. So these 2 CF priorities are in support of priority 1 in the MTSF. In priority 2 of the MTSF, which is economic transformation and job creation, there's 2 priorities that the compensation fund is supporting, which is that the compensation fund is implementing, which is 1, priority 2, to ensure that appropriate benefits are delivered to intended beneficiaries efficiently and at a reasonable cost. And the third priority is that to contribute to employment and economic growth through rehabilitation and reintegration. The third priority, that the MTSF priority that we are supporting, priority 4, which is consolidating the social wage through reliable basic services. There's about 5 CF priorities that are in support of this particular MTSF priority. The first one is improving operational efficiency through process reengineering and technological innovation. Secondly, to ensure that appropriate benefits are delivered to the intended beneficiaries efficiently and at a reasonable cost. And lastly, contributing to employment and economic growth through rehabilitation and reintegration once again. So these are the priorities that we support in terms of the 5-year plan. So in terms of the 5-year plan, when you look at these slides, this just then shows us the different outcome indicators that we have and the initial 5-year target. You'll see with the first outcome of Black asset managers that are supported, the 5-year target is to have 20% of assets that are managed. That these are investments of the compensation fund managed by Black asset managers, and having a vacancy rate not more than 8%, and also fully implementing the licenses that the minister issues to mutuals to assist in the specific sectors, and to have contributed through the Presidential Comprehensive Youth Employment Interventions. We need to have contributed to about 300 jobs for youth by March 2025, and also creation of jobs through the investment activities through the Job Summit initiatives, contributing to about 7,000 jobs by March 2025. When it comes to revenue generation, 95% of the returns of earnings that are assessed, and 10% increase in assets per annum that we also want to have by 2025. And with regards to the audit outcomes, the target that we have there is that by March 2024, we should have an unqualified audit opinion. It will be a clean audit. And also 100% elimination of wasteful and fruitless expenditure by March 2024. And the 75% reduction in irregular expenditure, about 75% by March 2024. And resolution of 95% of all cases that would have been reported for fraud and corruption. This needs to have been finalized and investigated. We need to hit a target of about 95% by March 2024. And also having implemented and established an ethics competency within the compensation fund. We also, as part of the strategic plan, also then support the implementation of the integrated claims management system by March 2023. You know, the objective of government is to have an integrated claims management system within the social security cluster entities. And about 95% of the compensation claims adjudicated. We've set target that by end of 2025, we should have been adjudicating about 95% of compensation claims within 10 days of receipt, and 95% of all compensation benefits that are finalized and needs to have been paid within the 5 working days. We also have a visibility and accessibility strategy, which is aimed at improving access to the services of the compensation fund through the various channels, technology and non-technology channels. And we need to have implemented 100% of this strategy by March 2025. Also, with regard to medical benefits, the target that we've set here is to have 95% of all medical benefits or claims finalized and paid within the shortest period of time, and the target is 95, moving from the current 85. With regards to rehabilitation and reintegration, we want to get to a situation where almost 90% of all severely injured workers who have suffered permanent disablement as a result of their injuries to be enrolled into rehabilitation programs that would assist to integrate them back into the labor market, and where they can't be integrated back to the labor market, to ensure successful integration back to their communities. That's the strategic plan of the fund, Chair, in a nutshell. If I go to, I think, slide 19, this is then takes us through to the annual performance plan of the fund for the financial year 2022-2023. And I'll also focus on slides 22 to slide 31 for the first program. So the programs of the compensation fund are divided into about 4 programs. One is the administration programs, which is then responsible for all the corporate support functions, as well as the finance functions within the fund. Program 2 is Core Services, which is responsible for claims registration, adjudication, as well as assessment of employers. We also then have Program 3, which is Medical Benefits, responsible for medical services, as well as payment of medical claims. And then we have the last program, Program 4, which focuses on orthotic and rehabilitation services, which assist workers to make sure that those that are permanently disabled do go through rehabilitation and get some assistive devices that would enable them to be able to continue the everyday functions of life. If I go to slide 22, Chair, just move to slide 22, which is Program 1. So Program 1 has all those sub-programs that are indicated there, from the Office of the Commissioner all the way to all the corporate support functions in the fund. In the next slide, we start with the activities as well as the performance indicators that are part of Program 1. The first target that we had there was percentage of assets under management that are allocated to the asset managers annually. These are So the target for the 2022-2023 is to have 6% of the assets under management allocated to asset managers. You recall in the strategic plan over the 5-year period, this needs to have grown to about 20%, but we're starting then at 6% in 2022-2023. Second indicator also to contribute to job creation is funds that are allocated to small and medium enterprises annually. And the target that we have set for the 2022-2023 financial year is about 250 million. With the target relating to number of jobs, decent jobs that are created through the Job Summit initiatives annually, The target for the 2022-2023 is 1,500 jobs. The next indicator is the number of jobs that are created through the Presidential Comprehensive Youth Employment Interventions. And this is the employment of young people fresh out of schooling, matric, and assisting those with job experience. So the target here is about 100 for the 2022-2023 financial year. The second target relating to sustainability of the fund is the percentage increase in total assets per annum. And the target that we've set for 2022-2023 is 10%. So we objectively then measuring the 10% growth over the MTSF period. The other target is also around improving the audit outcomes, and for 2022 we should get no worse than a qualified audit for the 2022-2023 financial year, while the objective still remains to attain a clean audit. With regard to wasteful and fruitless expenditure, so the target that we've set for 2022-2023 is to reduce this balance by about 75%. And with regard to irregular expenditure, to then reduce the balance that we have by about 45%. The last indicator in program 1 is relating to improving the accessibility and visibility of COID services. And the strategy that we're implementing, 20% of the strategy need to have been implemented by the end of 2022-2023. So if I jump to slide 56, which is program 2. Program 2 is COID services. COID services is also responsible then for compensation benefits, as I said, which registers and adjudicate claims, employer services, which then assesses employers, as well as the investment functions. The first indicator that we have here is assessing percentage of received return of earnings assessed annually. And the target that we have here is that of the ROEs that have been received, 87 or about 90% or 87.5% of these need to have been assessed and finalized. The balance would usually be those that either are flagged for audit or were submitted before or by the end of the financial year, and there was insufficient time to have assessed those. The second indicator here is percentage of claims received adjudicated within 30 working days. And the target for the 2022-2023 financial year is 90% of claims received adjudicated within 30 working days. The last indicator in this program is the percentage of approved benefits that needs to be paid within 5 working days. And the target that we've set for 2022-2023 is 90%. We do allow for instances where of business continuity, in instances where we either have network downtimes and so on, and we're not able to pay within the 5 working days. That is why the target there is 90%. When I move to program 3, it takes us to slide 68, which takes us to program 3, medical benefits. The subsequent slides on the 2 other programs is just basically the details around the technical definitions of what these indicators mean. That's why I am not going through those. Those can be read by the members. So on page, on this slide, we basically then looking at program 3. Program 3 comprises of medical services as well as medical claims. So to improve the, so medical services works with the medical doctors that we've employed in the fund, and the claims processors then are focusing on the medical claim side of the fund. So if I go to the indicators that we have, so the first indicator is the percentage of requests for pre-authorizations of specialized medical interventions finalized within 10 working days of receipt of accepted claims. So the target for 2022-2023 is that 95% of requests for pre-authorization of specialized medical interventions finalized within 10 working days of receipt. And then the next target is about 80% of medical invoices finalized within the 30 working days of receipt. These are then the two targets that we are tracking and focusing on with regards to medical benefits. If I move to slide 77, slide 77 takes us to program 4. Now, program 4 is the rehabilitation and orthotic services, which then is the area that focuses on all aspects of rehabilitation, social, vocational, as well as clinical rehabilitation to get workers back into employment and or to integrate back to their families and their communities post the occupational injury. The indicators that we're tracking in this program, first is the request for assistive devices that are finalized within 15 working days. And the target that we've set for 2022-2023 is 90%. And these are the devices that we give to those that are injured at work. The second indicator here is the number of lenders that are funded annually at post-school education and training institutions. This is part of the social activities and rehabilitation work that we do to support the beneficiaries of the COID pensioners and those that have injured at work, to assist them with post-matric schooling assistance, financial assistance. And the target for 2022-2023 is 895 learners that would then be funded through post-school education. Second one is also the target for persons with disabilities that are funded annually for vocational rehabilitation program. These are also our injured workers themselves who once they've been injured and want to be reskilled so that they can be able to continue to go back to the labor market and contribute in a different career altogether. We then assist them with training. The target that we've set for 2022-2023 is 200. This is a new program. There has been a bit of less turnout in terms of pensioners who are willing to want to go to educational institutions to further their skills, but we are working with the pensioners, and also some of our activities aimed at promoting this particular function. With the upcoming COID amendment bill, we focusing more on rehabilitation and reintegration, and this is going to be an important work that the fund will then be doing to assist with job creation and making sure that those that are injured at work go back to employment should they wish to get back to employment. Chair, that's the end of my presentation. I'll end there. The subsequent slides also is just a continuation of explaining what these indicators mean, technical indicators, as well as the breakdown of some of these targets per quarter. Chair, I'll end my presentation here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Commissioner Mafata, for your presentation. Honorable members, here's the presentation of the compensation fund. Commissioner Mafata has just concluded, and it's the time for us to raise questions.
Michael Bagram.
Honorable Bagram.
Michael Cardo.
Honorable Bagram, Honorable Mkondo, Honorable Kado. Who else? Thank you. Let's proceed in the meantime.
May I go ahead? Acting Chair?
Yes, Honorable Baker.
Thank you, Honorable Nonsale. Thank you. I actually have a question for the Minister, if you don't mind. His opening address was actually quite shocking in the sense that he called the third-party administrators parasites. He also said that he believes that they were only there because the fund was dysfunctional. Maybe he can expand a bit on that, because the fund is completely dysfunctional and that's why they're there. But he also said there's going to be an audit, and every time we ask for problems that exist with third-party administrators, they say no, they're going to find those problems. But he must come forward and tell us. He must name and shame the third-party administrator that's a thief or fraudulent or something like that. We need to know. But at the moment, the fund is so dysfunctional that without them, nothing works. So I need him to comment on it, and I need him to comment on why he called them parasites. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Begram. I'm sure the commissioner would deal with those questions in the absence of the minister, or he can respond to you in writing in the event that we conclude before he comes back. But I would allow the commissioner to deal with the questions, and also the deputy minister, where appropriate. They will be free to make a response on that. Honorable Mkondo.
Good morning, Chair. Thanks for the opportunity. Good morning, fellow members, the admin staff, and our guests, if there are any guests that have joined us after the roll call. Chair, I will start with the comment of the minister. Chair, I will say that it is contrasting what the AG presented to us. The AG presented the reasons behind this fund being dysfunctional. So what the minister is coming with, it needs another day for discussion, because the AG, a Chapter 9 institution, never told us about an outside partner that is contributing to the dysfunctionality of this fund. The fund was summoned, secondly, the fund was once summoned by SCOPA, and I attended that meeting, and they requested that the DG and the commissioner of this fund must write letters and explain why they should be kept in their jobs. So I want to know, Chair, if those letters have been written to SCOPA, because we are interested as members of this committee as to why should they be kept in their positions. And then the slide 14 and 15 of the strategic plan, it needs a very rigorous monitoring, Chair. I hope each time when APPs are presented, we will find sense that really the targets that are being presented on slide 14 and 15 of the strategic plan are measurable, and they are going to be achieved. Slide 22 and 23 of it was talking about, and slide 21 was talking about the jobs created during the 2021-22 financial year. My question is, are these statistics given to States SA? Because according to States SA, unemployment in South Africa is increasing every day. But we are having here, colleagues are saying, no, there has been jobs that have been created, and they envisage creating jobs through those programs that they have presented. So my question is, does that information made available to States SA? Slide 56 talks about the 30 days claims, claims being processed within 30 days. And then the target is 90%. Are we not allowing this fund to underplan? I don't know how to call it, because if they are ready to have mitigation plans for the reasons that they have presented, that can prevent them achieving 100%, then that's a challenge to me, Chair. Why can't we put 100%, and then we look at mitigation plans that any risk that might be experienced, and then we have this mitigation plan, and then we'll obviously achieve our 100%. Why are we under planning? Why are we saying we are going to do only 90%, and then we put a reason we can't do it because we foresee that this and this will happen? If it doesn't happen, and then they will come back and present it as an overachievement. That's the challenge that I'm having, Chair. No, Chair, I think I'm done. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Honorable Mkondo. Honorable Kado.
Thank you, Chair. I noticed that the Minister was still online, is still online, so hopefully he can respond to the comments and not just deflect them onto the Commissioner. I also take issue with the Minister's extraordinary attack on third-party administrators. He called them parasites, which is just completely beyond the pale, because we know that third-party administrators are really the only thing that is keeping the whole wobbly pack of cards together. The compensation fund has been an absolute dysfunctional disaster for as long as we can all remember. So it seems a bit rich for the Minister to try and scapegoat the one aspect of the whole scheme that actually works. My question then is, what is the status of the regulations that were gazetted back in October last year, I think it was, affecting the status of third-party administrators? Can you hear me? There seems to be some interference.
You can repeat, Honorable Kado.
So my question is, what is the status of those regulations gazetted back in October last year affecting third-party administrators, which seem to be trying to achieve the same thing that was explicitly rejected by the committee when we deliberated on the COIDA amendment bill? Is it not very dishonest and underhanded to try and achieve through regulation what has already been rejected legislatively by the committee? And has the fund given any thought to what it would entail for the actual treatment by medical professionals if third-party administrators were done away with entirely? Surely there is a huge threat that these compensation cases would simply just not be undertaken by medical professionals anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kato. Commissioner, there's no additional hand here. Commissioner.
Are you taking the Minister first, Chairman? Chair?
Okay. Oh, thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson. First of all, the honorable member from the EFF raises the issue which was raised in the SCOPA. I would like to answer that question in the SCOPA, but I must say here, when you say to a staff member as a parliamentary committee, you must write letters and indicate why you're still keeping your job. I am not sure whether you are starting a disciplinary process as parliament on the job which is supposed to be done by the executive. I'm still dealing with that particular matter. That's the contradiction here. But however, I've responded to the SCOPA in relation to this question which we are raising, because otherwise, if we don't respect the labor laws and start processes in a different way, I think we will regret. So it can't be Parliament saying, why are you still keeping your job as a staff member? It's supposed to be the executive committee, and I mean the executive member, and the executive must be called to account. What is he doing in terms of consequent management? Not members writing directly to Parliament as if they are starting a disciplinary process. That's the first point to Honorable Mkwili. And I stand by what I've said. This issue of the third parties, we've tried everything. We've tried to accommodate them. But what is very clear, it's interest of making a lot of money out of the compensation fund because of the mistakes which are there. And I'm not going to retract that. That's what is happening. When we're trying to sit and talk to them and show them how we have to deal with these particular issues, putting the client at the center of this, not the third party at the center of this about their own claims and so on, but putting the client at the center of this. The issue of the regulations, I think the commissioner is going to be able to answer. So on this matter, I'm not going to retract. And I've talked about systemic issues which we are dealing with, because what Scopa was doing was dealing with certain transactions, not with systemic issues, which are affecting the compensation fund. It was certain transactions they were not happy with and so on, and which we need to explain on those transactions. But the systemic issues are the issues which we are dealing with. Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Minister. Commissioner, you can come in.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think we may be starting with Honorable Mkonto's questions. I think we've noted the comments that she's made around the issues of monitoring and so on. Maybe just responding to the specific questions. The issue of the 90 days target or paying finalizing benefits within 5 working days. Chair, when you set performance measures and indicators, they need to be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, and reasonable, as well as time-bounded. Now, Chair, we operate in an environment where claims would have to adhere to specific criteria for them to be paid. If a claim doesn't adhere to that, you then have to make sure that then you assist the client or you assist whoever was preparer of the claim to make sure that that is payable. And oftentimes it may spend beyond even the 5 days. You also have, we're operating in a technology environment, Chair. Technology is affected by items, things like load shedding. Technology is affected by downtimes as a result of the network downtimes as well. So when you plan and you set objectives, you need to be able to consider this as well. Otherwise, you'll be setting unreasonable goals, which may create unreasonable expectations. And that is why when we set the targets, we then set. What we strive for when we're working is to be able to pay everything within 5 working days. But we know that is always not possible, so that's what we have planned for. We don't even necessarily planned to fail. Moving to Honorable Kado's comments around the regulation. So, Chair, we published a notice. I am yet to see anybody show me where in the notice we specifically refer to third parties. The COID Act speaks to 2 parties or 3 parties that you are paying. And these 3 parties is one, the employer, in an event that they've paid the salary of the worker during the treatment of the injury, and we have to reimburse the worker. You also, the employer, you pay the injured worker for the injuries. You also pay the treating health practitioner for treating the injuries of the worker. The notice speaks and is directed to those 3 parties, and it outlines the rules that we follow then when we pay, to make sure that we safeguard the payments and we pay the money to the right person. So this notice is not about third parties. We've never even explicitly said third parties or anybody. We're basically saying these are the rules that we follow to pay. And these are the rules as expected of us. The accounting authority, which is the DG, the commissioner, and all officials in the fund are expected to implement systems of internal control to make sure that we safeguard the assets as well as the resources of the fund. And some of these notices and some of these rules that we put in place are in pursuance of making sure that of adhering to the Public Finance Management Act. We can never, ever set rules or pay for the sake of satisfying specific individuals while compromising the controls as well as compromising the safety of the monies that we are paying to the intended beneficiaries. And that's the whole objective and purpose of this. It has nothing to do with the COID amendment bill, but it has everything to do with the current COID legislation. And we've clarified that and said that a number of times. Chair, I think we've noted all the other comments, Chair. If there's a question that I've missed, my colleagues maybe will step in, Chair. But I think I've responded to all the questions. Thank you.
Jay, if you will allow me, I think the Commissioner skipped the question on whether the stats are given through to Stats South Africa.
Yes. Yes.
All the information, this statistical information forms part of the department's MTSF reports, which go to all the interested parties. But I think we must remember that we also sometimes find that although we might create 2,000 or 3,000 job opportunities, the economy might shed 5,000, then we're still in a negative balance. But to confirm that the information gets reported in our MTSF reports that go to all the relevant stakeholders. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Ms. Bronkhorst, and thanks, Commissioner, as well. Any further comments or questions of clarity? Honorable members from the Compensation Fund.
Chairperson, Honorable Denner.
Yes, Honorable Denner.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I can't get my hand up. I don't know what's going on. I would just like to know from the Compensation Fund with regards to the regulations. There were many comments sent to the Compensation Fund with regards to the regulations that were published for comment. And I would just like to know how many comments were received. Were those comments taken into cognizance with regards to the outcome of the regulations? And will these regulations be amended, or will they be published and continued with as is? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Denner. Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think we've previously reported to the committee that we received about 76 comments, and we are still going through the comments. Some of them are legal in nature, and we're also then subjecting them to some legal scrutiny. And once we finalize that whole process, we will then publish the final notice, because the initial notice was just for comments to be received. Then we'll publish the final notice with the specific rules. So some of the risks that we're managing, we're dealing with them as exceptions at the current moment, but the plan with the notice was to basically then enforce those exceptions and make sure that if there's any exceptions, we don't deal with those. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner. Any further questions? If there are no further questions, can we then proceed and invite the Unemployment Insurance Fund for presentation? Ms. Bronkhorst, are you going to again give guidance on that? Or yes. Okay.
Yeah, Chairperson, the Commissioner can take us through. It's a substantially shorter presentation than the previous one, but he can take us through. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, ma'am.
Good morning, members and Minister and Deputy Minister. This is Debo Homaru, being the UIF Commissioner. I'll start with the presentation, sir, starting with slide number 3 in the tema fata. Chairperson and members, what we're highlighting in slide number 3 is what informs the work that you do. We are just lifting up those areas in the Act that informs why we have, what employers must register, why they must declare, pay contributions, and why we pay claims, and what is defined in the claim in the Act about claims. We also touch about the funding instruments that you put in place for labor activation, which is predominantly Section 5D. And then we also lift up here priority 1, 2, and 4, where UIF plays a role. And we're highlighting those outcome indicators that we've lifted up that are supporting those priorities and which outcome is linked to UIF. If you can go to slide number 5, then I'm going to zero in, Chair, on the specific outcomes and specific priorities. On this slide, Chair, the focus is on priority number 1, a capable, ethical, and developmental state. We're looking at an outcome for UIF of a functional and efficient UIF. There's 5 targets here, Chair, that we're lifting up. And the first one is an improved audit opinion obtained from auditors. And this will be driven through implementation of the audit findings because linked to those audit findings from Auditor General is the control environment and how we improve the control environment, which will bring about the change in the audit opinion. And the next one, Chair, is also additional runtime to pay suppliers. We believe that if we pay the suppliers on time, then it contributes towards employment creation and also ensuring that SMMEs are supported and they continue to function. Our baseline here is 99.9%. We only missed 3 of the invoices, but we're still targeting 100% within 30 days, Chair. And then the next one is our drive, Chair. As you know, that we funded COVID-19 during 2020, 2021, and even now we're still paying some of the cases. There's a number of investigation cases that have come our way, Chair, and we are striving to resolve 95% of these within 90 working days as prescribed, so that we can bring to book those people that have either defrauded the UIF or have applied incorrectly through the fund. And also, one of the key items that we're improving here, Chair, is an improved claim management systems. We've received many complaints at different fronts, and because our systems are not integrated in a manner that supports an efficient and an effective claims processing, the plan is by 31st March 2023, we'll have an integrated, fully functional, integrated claims management system so that we can service our customers timelessly and they can receive the benefits that are due to them on time. And then the last one, Chair, in this area is we want to verify all the COVID-19 TERS benefits. And here, this is an internal target that we are targeting 14,000 employers that we want to pursue as an internal function, even though we are going to appoint about 11 external follow the money companies that are going to be going to the remaining percentages, because we intend to follow up 100% of the companies that were paid COVID TERS, but as an internal instrument, we also do a certain percentage of this. And our target is 14,000, given the capacity within. And then on this slide again, Chair, as part of strengthening institutional capacity of the fund is to make sure that all the vacancies are filled. Right now, we're sitting at 7.1% with 43 posts that are still vacant. Our target for 2025 is at 3%. But when I'm going through the quarterly targets, I also reflect what is the target for 2022, 2023. If you can move to the next slide, on slide six, Chair, this is a priority number 2. We're looking at economic transformation and job creation. And the outcome for UIF here is more decent jobs created and sustained. We want to contribute towards job creation and also sustaining these jobs. In the main, because this speaks to the sustainability of UIF itself. If we have people employed, then they continue to contribute and UIF remains sustainable. And one of our targets here, Chair, is to have, for the 2021 financial year, we had 13,000 that we achieved. For the financial year leading to 2025, our target is 75,000, but I'll walk through the quarterly targets in the next slide. And then for sustainable enterprises, Chair, we are looking at 90% of the project that we funded, because we have a number of projects that we funded that we want to pursue, that we want to follow up and ensure that they're delivering as per their mandate, in particular, one of creating jobs and sustain jobs. So we'll be visiting 90% of those projects, while the 10% will be visited by internal staff. And then also the next target, Chair, is an improved turnaround time to reject or approve a valid temporary employer relief scheme. Here, Chair, the drive here is on sustaining jobs that are already there, where companies are in distress. We want to make sure that 90% of these valid applications are processed. Previously, we had achieved 23% because there was a definition issue on the technical indicator, which we have since improved, and hence you'd see that now it says improved turnaround time to approved and reject a valid temporary TERS application, and previously it did not have valid. Because the validity of the claim is important, because one of the items here was the compliance with the UI Act. If you can go to slide number 7. On slide number 7, the emphasis is on priority number 4, which is consolidating social wage through reliable and basic services. And our outcomes here, Chair, is an inclusive and a responsive social security coverage. Now, the first item here, Chair, is unemployment benefit. Currently, we are sitting at 87% paid within 15 working days. We are targeting 95% of these benefits paid within 15 days by 2025. And the emphasis, Chair, as in the previous slide, is an integrated claims management system which will enable a higher percentage within a shorter space of time. We might even review the 15 days as the system matures, right, once it's implemented. And then the next target, Chair, is 95% of valid in service benefits claims paid within 7 working days. Our current performance is sitting at 87% within 10 days, and we believe we can reduce the number of days we are paying these claims for maternity, illness, and adoption, and we are reducing it to 7 working days by 2025. And the next one is the deceased benefit. Currently, we are paying them within 20 days, and we've done this now 85% within 20 days. And we want to improve this further and take it to 10 working days by 2025 at 95% of these. And the next target, Chair, is the payment of continuation of payments, where people have applied before, and now is a continuation of payments every month, that they just come and confirm that, yes, indeed, I'm still unemployed or I'm still on maternity leave. Currently, we are sitting at 99% within 5 working days. And we want to take this further down and do this 100% within 2 working days by 31st March. And the last one is 99% within 1 working day. And here, this is new companies that are registering for UIF. Currently, we are sitting at 99% within a day, and we say, let's do this now. Let's do 100% now within a day. And next slide. Chair, on slide 9, these are our quarterly targets, Chair. And I think what I want to lift up, maybe if you can just go to slide number 11, Datima Fata. Yes, if you go on to slide number 11, Chair, I think what I want to lift up here in particular is that the number of beneficiaries that will be participating in employability programs. For 2022-2023, our target is 15,000. As you recall, our baseline is sitting at 13,000, and we want to pick this up to 15,000. And those are the quarterly targets at 5,000 per quarter. Chair, I'm going to ask the CFO to walk us through slide number 12 on the budget allocation, just to give the committee a feel of where we are in terms of budgeting. Ms. Puzi.
Thank you. Good morning, honorable members, Minister and Deputy Minister. I'm going to take you through just the highlights of our budget that supports this strategic planning. And I'm not going to dwell much on the numbers, but I just want to indicate to the members, if you look at the top right of the presentation, we've got 3 programs. Program 1 being the administration program. Program 2 being business operations. This is where we are paying our claims. Then the next program being labor activation programs. So what we're trying to depict here, members, is the budget that we have set aside to support the plan. So what we tried to do was to give you the history in terms of what and how we have spent in the last 3 years. That is 2019, 2020, 2020, 21. And you'd also note that if you move to the right corner, then we're also showing you our projections for the next MTF period. So if you note again, if you look at the 3 years audited, you will see that 2018-19 we spent 10.4 billion. Then it increased in 2019-20 to 19 billion. Then 2021, due to the COVID tax payments, then our spending shot up drastically to 71 billion. However, we're starting to see a decline now in terms of spending. If you look at the revised estimated for 2021-22, we're now moving to 46 billion. And then for the year 2022-23, the budget that is supporting this plan, we're seeing now a decrease again in terms of our budget. And mainly it is due to business operations. We're moving now from 68 billion to 26 billion. And this is mainly due to us now, the main contributor here was COVID tariffs. So now that we're no longer going to be dealing with COVID tariffs in the year 2022-23, the budget has been revised down. What we also budgeted for in the previous year was the WABU, that is workers affected by the unrest. So there was money set aside. So in this financial year, we anticipate that there will be no, we didn't cater for those special projects, which we believe would have been addressed in the 2021-22 financial year. The next of the rows, members, is just a depiction, it's just a breakdown of the summary that has been provided at the top level. So our budget for 2023 is 33.6 billion as compared to the 46.3 billion that we set aside for 2021-22. I'll end up there, members. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Commissioner, and the CFO for the presentations. Honorable members, here are the presentations of the Unemployment Insurance Fund. Can we invite questions?
Is Michael Backram?
Cardo.
Yes, Honorable Backram, Honorable Cardo, Honorable Kondo. I'm sorry?
Honorable Denner, please, Chair.
Honorable Denner. Can we start with the Honorable Backram?
Thank you, Acting Chair. I appreciate it. It was Mark Twain, people might know him, who said that they're lies, damned lies, and statistics. And we've heard some very good statistics here today and plans. But on the ground, and I'm sure most of my honorable brothers and sisters on this call will testify that the reality is that there are people forever telling me that no one answers the phone at the fund, no one ever answers them. And when they do get an answer, it says you will have an answer within 10 days. They don't get the answers. Is there any possibility of the commissioner here and now telling us what phone number would be working, and we'll have someone manning that phone number telling them what the answer is? Because somehow people, you get through eventually after months of calling, and people say, yes, we'll get back to you, and they never do. We need something functional. The UIF is a people-facing entity of the department. People need to know where they are, when they're going to get paid, how much they're going to get paid, how was it calculated. None of that is ever answered. And so maybe the commissioner, I'm sorry to put him on the spot, he's trying desperately to make things work, but somehow it's not working. Thank you, Acting Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Bankram. Honorable Kado.
Thanks, Chair. I have three questions. Firstly, what was the total amount of money paid in terms of the COVID-19 TERS benefit in the end, and how much of that was found to have been associated with fraudulent transactions? Secondly, what are the current assets of the UIF? And then thirdly, with the unemployment rate climbing over 35% now, according to yesterday's quarterly labour force survey, and expected to climb even further, what are the fund's actuaries saying about the fund's long-term sustainability? I mean, are your coffers likely to be affected if you reach an unemployment rate of, say, 40%? If so, how? What are the numbers and the projections involved? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Kado. Honorable Mkondo.
Thanks, Chair. Slide 5 talked about the system that will, an integrated management system that will be able to verify all COVID-19 TERS. My question is that system, will that system be able to identify repeated employees? For example, Chair, if there is a non-sale PTY Ltd and a Mkondo a PTY Ltd, and there are 5 employees. Whilst applying for TERS, they appear in both companies. Is this system going to be able to identify such fraudulent activities? Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Mkondo. Left this non-silent PTY Ltd. It's not there. Honorable Dena, please.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I have 2 questions. The first one is with regards to the practical working of the UIF. I'm sure the other colleagues have also received complaints about people who submit the same documentation over and over again, only to be requested upon follow-up on their claims that same documentation is still outstanding. Then they submit it again, and then it's not uploaded on the system, or they're requested to submit it again. So I'd like to know, is it human error? Is it poor administration? Is it a system error? Can the Commissioner please shed light on that problem, because it cannot be that people are requested to submit the same documentation over and over again. That's my first question. My second question is, are there any TERS claims still outstanding, still to be finalized? I have myself escalated a TERS problem through the Office of the Deputy Minister, for which I'm still awaiting feedback, and that's been more than a year now. So I'd just like to know, are there still TERS claims still to be finalized? And if so, how many? And by when will they be finalized, please? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Dena. Commissioner.
Honorable Chair.
Honorable Mdabe, sorry, Honorable Mdabe.
No, thank you, Chair. My apologies. I'm not sure whether it's network challenges. Can't be able to raise our hands and the systems. The financial budget. On the budget, there is about 3.1 billion allocated for labor activation program, but on the AP,
your network is
the target in terms of
your network is bad, Honorable Abe. Can you write on the chat? We can read it.
It's a challenge we have here. Okay, thanks.
You'll write on the chat. Honorable Ndabe.
Yes, Chair.
You'll write on the chat, but you are clear now. You can proceed. You are clear now.
I'm saying.
No, there's no improvement. Oh.
Located
I couldn't hear anything at all. No, let's take the option of writing on the chat.
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry for that, Honorable Ndabe. Any other question? The question on my side, Commissioner, and your team, is whether, for instance, I think I appreciate the presentation made, but on slide 6, on the targeted employment number of 75,000, which is fine, whether it would not be helpful also to do a breakdown of that in terms of the quotas, so that we're able to do a quarterly review of those targeted, which is a total target over the 3-year period. So instead of doing that, you break it as well, so that it's linked to the quotas. I just want to check if that is not going to be helpful. Thanks, Commissioner. Can we allow you to respond to the questions? But you should also take note that there will be a question that will be on the chat box. I'll also look out for it. Commissioner Marupe.
Thank you, Chairperson. And I must just indicate that the questions are quite progressive and will take the UIF far, Chairperson, in more ways than one. Let me start with the Honorable Ndabe's question, because it's still fresh in my head, Chair. I think on slide 11, we've broken down this employment target, Chair. I think maybe I might have just walked through that slide quickly. It's on slide 11. The target for 2022-2023 is 15,000. And the quarterly targets are broken down there as quarter 1, 5,000, quarter 2, 5,000, and then quarter 3 and 4, 2,500 and 2,500 each. I think the CFO will talk on some of the areas of the budget. Let me just hit on some of the questions, Chair. The first one is from Honorable Bakrim about the call center. Yes, I think, Chair, as a department, we did pick up that there were issues around how quickly the queries of clients were being attended, and hence we've moved towards a centralized call center for the department, which currently has started with the project of UIF and has over 100 employees. I think right now we are still going through some teething process as we are training these employees, training them on the systems. But I think, Chair, over time we're going to start to see some huge improvement in that space, because at least you have a centralized call center with at least a bigger number of people that are accessible to respond to the questions. And then Honorable Mkonto raised the issue around if we are able to pick up repeated employees. Yes, it's true, Chair, that we are able to pick up both repeated employees and employers. If an employer applies for COVID tests, we are able to pick up if they're applying for the second iteration or the third. Because if you'd recall, Chair, there were a number of iterations that were pronounced around COVID tests and the lockdown periods, where the first one was level 5, then level 4, level 3. As each level changed, it also impacted on who can apply, who may not apply. So we are able to pick up on the system if a particular sector is not supposed to apply or is supposed to apply. And it's the same platform that we use where we are referring cases to SIU for investigation, or we refer cases to the Fusion Center for investigation. But we're able to pick up repeated employees. But we are not able to pick up immediately if it's a fraudulent case. what we're able to pick up is if an employer applies, but they're in the sector that is active in the economy and they're not supposed to apply, those will be able to pick up. If, say, for example, in level 5, a health institution applied for COVID, and we knew that health institutions were open and functional, we'll be able to pick up those and refer them for investigations. I think I can leave it at that, Chair. But I think if Honorable Mkondo has a specific case that he would like us to look at, Chair, I'm open to look at those and provide feedback separately. And then there were questions raised by Honorable Dana, is we submit documents over and over. I've heard this complaint a number of times, Chair. And one of the things that we've done at this stage as a department again is previously UI operations were centralized at head office. And we had capacity in the provinces that were not enjoying the benefits of. And in the past 6 months, Chair, we've decentralized these functions into the provinces to the labor center. This will enable the applicant to be able to access the people that they've set up, they've applied to. And in this way, provinces and labor centers are able to own the client and manage this client experience end to end, because it's sitting now at provincial level, at labor center level. And once again, this is a new process, and we're anticipating that as the process matures, we are going to start to enjoy the benefits of this decentralized processing. And where capacity is needed, we'll also add capacity to the provincial footprints so that they're able to process appropriately. And I can also add that in the provinces, we've also added director UIF operations in each province, which will enable a head in a province to run with UIF operations. And these two, as it matures, Chair, we anticipate to see an improved service delivery on these cases. She also raised about if there's COVID tests, payments still outstanding. Yes, we still have a number of COVID tests that are outstanding. In the main, these outstanding COVID tests are driven by, the information that has not been provided by the applicant. And where the information is still outstanding, like for example, you'd find that there's an application where the monetary value that has been applied for does not tally with the declaration value, or the bank account, there's an issue with the banking account that has been supplied, or the UIF reference number is a problem. So each case is unique, but we still have cases that are outstanding that we are still open to pay once those error messages has been fixed. And Honorable Dena, you can also maybe provide me with your cases that are still outstanding. I have a team of people that are working on those just to focus to make sure that these cases are resolved. And we're also setting aside a separate COVID test team that will work throughout the whole COVID test applications to close them and also ensure that there's investigation that needs to take place if there's any, and also the necessary accounting treatment that you put in place for whatever funds that you are receiving from the process. Honorable Ricardo raised 3 questions, Chair. The first one was how much money has been paid for COVID tests. Year to date, Chair, we've paid 63.7 billion rands for COVID tests. And when I say year to date, I mean as far as the end of February. That's how much money we've paid for COVID tests. In terms of current assets, Chair, just yesterday, we were looking at our financial position. Currently, we are just sitting at over 120 billion rands as UIF, and we are still in good standing to be able to cater for our beneficiaries. The organization is still stable, but the Auditor General has raised a concern that the financial position of the fund has dropped substantially, given that we've paid this 63.7 billion rands. And they're equally concerned that if we continue at this trajectory, the long-term financial sustainability of the fund is concerning. And the one case in point is for the past 6 months, we have received less contributions as compared to the UIF benefits that we are paying. And in the previous years, we're receiving more contributions compared to how much we're paying out. So as we are paying out now, we are starting to eat on the surplus. And we've already asked our actuaries to give us a long-term sustainability plan. They presented yesterday, Chair. They gave us a report yesterday. So there's been an assessment of our sustainability. We are going to discuss this as EXCO. And I think at an appropriate moment, Chair, we'll share the status of the fund. But the actuaries have already done the work. We're just going to analyze the report now, Chair. I'm not sure, Chair, if I missed any question, in particular in the chart, because I've not seen those, Chair. Thank you. I'll ask the CFO to respond on some of the finance questions that were raised. CFO, if you can just cover the...
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. I think the question was from Honorable Dabe. The question is the budget on the lab aligned to the number of applications received? What I can indicate to members, for instance, if you look at the labor activation has 3 deliverables, being on the COVID, on the TERS, that is Employer and Employee Relief Scheme. This program is, run from the CCMA, or rather adjudicated at CCMA. These are companies that are in distress and going through retrenchments, some of these companies. So they will then go to the CCMA and apply for this relief. Number 2, we also have a program that talks to employability, as well as we have other programs to ensure that we then assist in terms of employment. So I think the question from the member, if we look at the budget itself on labor activation, you'll note that in 2021, the spending was very low. It was about 723 million. And if you note again that in 2022, the budget has then been increased to 3.1 billion. And the reason for that, members, is that there is a program underway, or there is a program that we call a labor activation revamp. It is run from the office of the DG, where he is trying to turn around this area to ensure that we respond to the to employability of the country. So the budget is based on the actual cases that we have received, that we know of, and we also project for the future. So cases we've seen, there's a lot of cases that we're receiving from the CCMA for the TERS support, and we also received applications. But what I can indicate to members is that this is an ongoing program, because you get applications on a monthly basis. So it's not a matter of saying we are budgeting on what you only received, but you also anticipate on what you're going to receive going forward. So we have put ample budget to ensure that, for all the applications that we receive through the CCMA, or rather through the other applications for employability programs, they are catered for. We are also working with the Productivity South Africa that helps to turn around these companies. So we then support all of those initiatives through the labor activation program. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner and CFO.
Chair, sorry, Chair. There's sorry, my apologies. There was a question about how much of the money is possibly fraudulent. I just want to indicate, Chair, that there's 47.5 million. That is with the Fusion Center for Investigation that has been reported as a possible fraudulent amount. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Commissioner. Your 75,000, or you've responded to it?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's on slide 11, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
On the Honorable Mkondo, you said you do have the detail. You'll finish the details. So that is on the chart. Honorable Mkondo, you want to clarify on that?
No, yes, Chair, but I will prefer to speak privately with the Commissioner. I will furnish all the information to him.
Commissioner, you please note that Honorable Mkondo will furnish you with all the details.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any further questions, honorable members?
Acting Chair Michael Bagram, if possible.
Michael
Yes,
Michael Cotto too.
Okay, you can come with your follow-up questions. Honorable Bagram first.
Thank you, Acting Chair. I really appreciate it. The Commissioner said that it is concerning the long-term ability to pay, because we all know that the unemployment figures will reach the 50%. And obviously, we're relying very strongly on them recovering the monies that have been stolen. That's important. But obviously, also, I want to hear about the PIC monies that billions were stolen there, and I want to know what they're doing to recover that as well, so we don't have the problem. We all know that the fund itself has failed the South African workforce, and I just wanted to know from the Minister if he would at least do the honourable thing and consider resigning. So thank you, the Acting Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Bagram. The question is for the Commissioner. Honorable Kado.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to follow up on something that was said about the fund's surplus being eaten into. It was mentioned that the fund has been receiving fewer contributions than it has been paying out benefits over the last 6 months. And I wanted to know whether you could actually quantify that. I mean, what is the discrepancy between the amount received and the amount paid out over the last 6 months? And has it been getting progressively worse over the course of those 6 months? In other words, what is the trend looking like? Thanks.
Thanks, Honorable Kado. No further additional questions. Commissioner, can you deal with the two questions of the billions and the issues of the house or matters arising on 6 months? Commissioner?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think the first one around the PIC and the possible fraudulent activities that might be happening with our investment. Interesting enough, Chair, yesterday we had a meeting with the PIC team, with the CEO in particular, Chair. And we've requested a report from the PIC on all the investment, especially those that has been mentioned in the media and those investments that are not performing. And we've also asked them to give us a detailed breakdown on some of the activities that they've taken with respect to some of the investment. In some cases, Chair, some of the cases have already been reported to fraud, but I think once I have the complete report, I'll be able to report the portfolio committee. I think we've given them 14 days to put together this report, including the action that they're taking in the whole portfolio, Chair. That I think in particular, we're looking into the total portfolio, and then we're looking into those assets that are not performing. Then we're looking into the assets that fraud has been reported onto them. And also, we've asked them to look into the Mopati, the Mopati Commission on some of the areas that affects UIF, because we also want to have a complete picture on what is happening with the portfolio. And if needs be, whether we need to review our investment strategy and approach, but it will be based on that report once we receive it. I'll ask the CFO just to give us a picture on the contribution versus the payment and how deep it has been performing. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. If I could, give members the financial performance for the period ended 31st December 2021. So in terms of our revenue collection, that is from the contributions, we collected about 15.8 billion. This excludes interest and from investments, just on contributions. So we collected 15.8 billion for the period, as compared to the payments now on the benefit payments. Benefit payments, we paid 18 billion. So if you compare the two, you already have a gross deficit of 3 billion, because you collected 15 billion, 15.8 billion, and you're paying 18 billion. So you already have a let me say 2.5 billion deficit. However, because we've got investments, they somehow supplement, you know, the contributions. And in terms of the investments that we receive we managed to collect about, I'm trying to check my figure here. On the other income, we collected about 218 million. And then on investments, income from investments, it was about 5 billion. So it somehow, you know, closed or, you know, beefed up our revenue and closed the deficit side of it. So if we were just only looking at what we're receiving and what we are paying, we have a problem. But because we had reserves and we have investments, so that is why the fund ends up with a net surplus. Thank you, Chair. I hope I've responded. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, CFO. And if no further questions, we can proceed. No further questions. My apology for my unmuted noise to the honorable meeting of the honorables.
Sorry, Chair. Sorry to interrupt you, Chair. Can I just ask for a clarification on the answer to my question? It was simply...
Okay, you can come, Honorable Kado, but yeah, okay.
It's just a very quick one. I just want to know what period was the respondent referring to in quoting those figures? What time period was being referred to? Thanks.
CFO, can you clarify that?
Yes, Chair. It is from the 1st of April 2021 to 31st December 2021.
Thanks.
So it's, yes, thank you, sir.
Thanks, CFO. Honorable members, there are no further questions. Let's thank the presentations that have been made. And I'm checking, Honorable Deputy Minister, any remarks you would want to make? Honorable Deputy Minister, are you still with us? Ms. Bronkhorst, is the Deputy Minister on the platform?
I'm trying to check, Chairperson, but I don't see her.
Okay. No, that's fine. Then it means then we have come to the end of our meeting in the absence of additional questions and remarks. But I think it would be important again to re-emphasize the points that have been made by Honorable Minister, and as well as the responses in the form of questions from the honorable members, that our primary objective is to ensure that the entities perform to their optimum, and that the issues relating to all the nefarious activities are dealt with expeditiously, and that in particular the unemployment insurance fund is able to respond to the growing expectations of our people, particularly those who are in fact affected by the unemployment and the destruction of jobs that is currently underway. Having said that, I think the most important point again is for us to ensure that as we engage on these issues, we assist the entities to particularly position themselves and respond also to the issues raised by the AG's report on the one side, but also to meet their targets on the other side, so that we ensure that at the end of each term, we are able to present comprehensive reports and the reports that respond to everything, particularly those areas that have been raised by the AG's report. We all are concerned, and we would want to see a situation wherein we would be able to respond to ongoing decline in terms of job creation by ensuring that our entities as well, in the commitments that we're making, that is of creating employment or creating conditions that bring about jobs, are in fact realized. Having said that, I want to thank both the commissioner of the compensation fund and the commissioner of UIF and their teams, and the team leader, Ms. Bronkhorst, and the minister, the deputy minister, and the minister for their presence and their assistance in making sure that we as this portfolio committee are able to conclude on these presentations today. So thank you. The meeting is adjourned, honorable members.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you,
all
Chair.
members.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Chair.